Hey everybody, what's good? I'm originally from Chicago, and 8 years in a row, Chicago was nominated the best big city in the United States. So it was a surprise to me when I saw this video titled, Why Chicago Has Lost a Million People. This video is made by a group called the Why Minutes. On their website, it says here, the Why Minutes provides insight into the most pressing questions about how society works. We explore the underlying reasons, motivations, and philosophies that inform decisions, promote greater understanding, and advance a society dedicated to preserving and advancing freedom. I'll leave a link to their website in the description of this video if you want to follow up with the Why Minutes. While we do that, I'm going to keep working on this kids book. Before we get into it, remember to go to coconutjustice.com and get you some clothes that I think would look good on you. Let's go. Why Chicago has lost a million people. That's sizable. Let's go.
Why did a city that once ranked as the 5th largest in the entire world end up losing a million residents? One of the most shocking examples of urban population loss can be found right here in Chicago. And to understand how rapidly the Windy City is shrinking, consider this. Despite having a population of less than 200 people when it was founded in 1833, by the end of the 19th century, Chicago had become the 5th largest city in the world.
Chicago was founded by a black dude, DuSable. So that's why you see DuSable all over the place in Chicago. That's the dude who founded it. And then Chicago grew up to be one of the best cities in the world. It's my favorite, but I am biased. So it looks like London. I've been to London. It's pretty fun. It's no Chicago. I've been to New York. It's pretty fun. It's no Chicago. Haven't yet been to Paris. Haven't yet been to Berlin. Still, Chicago is my first pick. Let's go.
And this is in spite of the fact that virtually the entire place had been burned down in the Great Chicago Fire of 1871. Once more,
So if you haven't heard, the first go-round at Chicago, everything was made out of wood. And so rumor has it, or urban legend says that there was a lady with a cow, and the cow tipped over a lantern, and back in the day they had those lanterns with oil, and it was a flame, and it was, the flame itself was covered in glass, and supposedly the cow tipped this thing over, which caught the barn on fire, which caught the next building on fire, which eventually caught the entire city on fire. So when people say Chicago, the second city, they don't mean the second city to New York. We're not second to New York. The second city is basically, this is our second go at it, and now we have skyscrapers and everything made of concrete. So it is a concrete jungle, but the cool thing about Chicago is we have parks everywhere, and generally speaking, all of the neighborhoods in Chicago, which is the best part of Chicago. I know a lot of you like to go down to Michigan Avenue or Magnificent Mile, and you like to get all your shopping and stuff done. Don't be afraid to get into the neighborhoods. It's you won't be disappointed. All the really, really good muy autentico restaurants are in there. Are in the neighborhoods. So yeah, don't hesitate to go in the neighborhoods and go give mom and pop shops a try. You can go to Humboldt Park and get yourself all kinds of wonderful Puerto Rican food. As a matter of fact, that's where the jibarito was invented. A jibarito is a Puerto Rican sandwich made out of basically skirt steak, and instead of bread, you have flattened and fried plantains as the bread, as the holder, as the vehicle, I guess. So yeah, get into the neighborhoods. Be careful, but go into the neighborhoods.
Population doubled in the first half of the 20th century, giving it over 3.6 million residents by 1950. And yet, despite this previous growth, Chicago has seen its population fall in almost every single decade since 1950. The city has 1 million fewer residents today than it did 70 years ago. So why has the city lost 1 million residents in a single lifetime? Well,
Here we go.
The answer may not be what you think, because while some cities
The
like
weather?
Detroit can chalk it
Politics?
up to being crippled by major shifts within the American auto industry, and others like Kyiv has been forced to grapple with an ongoing war, Chicago hasn't seen its primary industries close shop, and it hasn't been invaded. There's a host of issues facing the city, things like really bad traffic and harsh weather.
I beg to differ. It's been invaded by all the people from the suburbs.
There are a few things that really stand out, and the first is political corruption. Of all the major cities in America,
These are facts. These are facts. One of the jokes in Chicago is vote early, vote often. A lot of our politicians have, if not gone to jail, have definitely seen the bars of a cell. Back in the day, there was a mayor that made a deal with the Democrats. We'll just say that there was a lot of votes that ended up in the bottom of the lake.
Chicago is the most notorious for corruption. Scandals have plagued the city for decades, and having been dominated by just one political party for over 90 years, accountability is not exactly robust. Crime has also been a systemic problem. Chicago has had a long history of violent crime dating back to Al Capone, but during the 70s and 80s, it was
I grew up in Chicago in the 70s and 80s. I wrote one story. I made a script based out of Chicago, and I won 10 awards on that script. Just a script. It's different. Chicago makes a different caliber of person.
bad. Chicago routinely ranked among the most dangerous and violent cities in the country, and in 1974, nearly 1,000 people were killed in 1 year. But even more recently, the city's crime rate has spiked.
I think that crime rate, if you do research, you'll see that this was even before like the war on drugs and all that stuff. Like the 70s were wild. And if you think it was bad in Chicago, take a look at what was happening in Miami at the time. And I think that both of those are very, very directly linked.
Yet again, between 2021 and 2022, the crime rate soared by over 40%. Theft is up over 30% since 2018, and motor vehicle theft is up by over 100%. Even worse, the city's murder rate, which had been declining for over 20 years, has risen to levels not seen since the 1990s. In addition to this, perhaps the most obvious reason people continue to move out of Chicago is the simple fact that it's just too expensive to live there. Chicago has some of the highest taxes in the country, including a sales tax that is among the highest of any city in America. In addition, the regulatory environment is...
Which is interesting because you take all this money, but where is all this money going to? Like the federal government can hide behind, oh, we need a strong defense and all this stuff and military industrial complex and all that stuff. But our education system is completely in shambles. And at least the federal government has, this war machine as an excuse. They try to scare all of us with, the boogeyman and stuff like that. And that's why we have to give to the military industrial complex and all that stuff. But Chicago doesn't have that excuse. So why are we closing up schools? What are we doing with all that money? Our schools are neglected and prices are high. And you wonder why people vote for maniacs.
Seen as burdensome and incredibly difficult to navigate. And this has led to frustration among business owners and residents alike, leading to notable companies like Tyson, Boeing, and Caterpillar all relocating over the past 3 years. Now, the silver lining is that all of these problems are not inevitable.
That's a touchy subject because we know for a fact that corporations will go somewhere where there's cheaper labor. This is what's happening in Silicon Valley here. We found out that they're contracting Indian companies and bringing Indian folks over because these companies would rather pay for 3 engineers than 1 American. Same thing that's happening with these jobs here.
They are a direct result of Chicago's public policy positions, which can, of course, be changed. But the majority of Chicagoans are not ready to vote for that significant change, which will probably result in more people voting with their feet.
So this video came out last year, so they probably didn't know, or they probably haven't yet found out that the government of Chicago was closing up schools, but then they would reopen the schools to put illegal aliens or to house illegal aliens until they figure out what to do with those guys. So they're not going to be voting with their feet. They literally voted for change. We have to invest in our people first. We have to invest in education. We have to do all of those things. Otherwise, Chicago is just a microcosm of the United States. United States has what? Corrupt politicians. They have high taxes. The education is in shambles. They're spending money where they don't need to be spending money. And the general public is not being treated properly. And that's why they go out. They don't vote with their feet. They spoke loud and clear this go round. A large majority of this country voted to try something new. And I'm here for it. Let's go see. Let's see what happens. As long as we don't slip into some goofiness, authoritarian, whatever the threats are, whatever boogeyman these people on the left are trying to set us up with, we need to keep an eye on that to make sure that it doesn't go in that direction. However, we need to do something different because I know they're taking a lot of money out of all of our checks. I know that if we don't pay our taxes, we go to jail, but yet our taxes are going to what? Exactly. Anyway, I hope you liked this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and share it with each and every one of your friends. And if you want to come hang out with me while we watch videos and I work on creative projects, hit that subscribe button and click on the little bell icon that's right next to that button. So every time I come out with something new, you'll be alerted. Don't forget to go to coconutjustice.com and get yourself some dope gear. And with that, I'm out.